3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin the Racin.
And welcome back to the podcast. And for the second week in a row, I'm joined by Christian the Idden. Lightning? Is it Lightning Idden?
Lightning McIdden, yeah.
Muckidden. I love it now. You're just throwing that little Scottish version of him. One episode with Duncan Vincent and he thinks he's Scottish.
I've got a muck in my name already.
I love it. I'm all about it, mate. I'm all about it. And tonight we are joined by local hero and fellow podcaster in a different realm of things, David Charlton. How we doing, my man? Charlton, you see, I knew I'd get that mixed up. This is terrible. He's done like immediately on the back foot. You know, we're sitting.
We're here with a fellow podcaster, and literally in your opening sentence,
I literally get his name wrong. So this is
done your homework well, haven't you?
I have indeed. I love this. So he's got his own podcast, 201 episodes, and
which is what this is.
Exactly.
Is it?
Yeah, this is 201.
That is terrifying.
It's weird, isn't it?
That is weird.
Yeah.
That is weird. Now, I tell you, like, it's before we go down the full history of it all, it's actually, we're talking about podcasts, we're poking fun at it, but it was actually Chrissy got you into the podcast side of things. Yeah, there's a huge history between you and Chrissy, isn't it?
Exactly. I know. Let's go back. What we're talking? 5 years, 6 years now. I think it was.
Wow.
Phone goes. Martin's on the other end. Chrissy was, well, having a bit of a nightmare, in all honesty. He'd crashed the bike quite a bit. Confidence was at a low ebb. I got approached to do a bit of work with him. And anyway, as I got to know him, going back to the podcast, every time I saw him, we're talking podcasts, swapping notes, helping each other. And yeah, this is just, it is weird, like 201 for myself and obviously for yourselves. Yeah, like... So like Martin's just explained the story really. So he found you in the yellow pages. I know he didn't. But... Yellow pages. Google.
He actually said that. And me and Christian in the kitchen going, "You're taking the piss." I'm like, in the yellow pages, just so.
but your work is in sports psychology.
Exactly.
So Martin sort of got in touch with you to try and help Chrissy out, and you sort of went from there.
Yeah, we did. I suppose firstly, what I'll just say is, like, as a sports psychologist, you sort of got that like doctor-patient relationship where you've got confidentiality. So just so everybody's aware, we've spoken with the family, and we are going to talk a little bit about Chrissy in a nice way, and I'll cover some of the things that were discussed, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of a laugh in the process as well. So yeah, as we say, so Chrissy wasn't in a great spot when Martin approached us. I'm not going to tell you exactly what we did, but
I don't give away all your trade secrets.
Exactly. But I'm pretty sure within about a month, 6 weeks or so, all his results turned where he was. He had a couple of podiums and he won a race basically towards the end of the season there. I think he was pretty good at that. The season ended when it did. That's obviously not just down to my work. It's down to his hard work and putting things into practice. But it had a positive impact. Normally what I find with most people I work with, I work with them for half a dozen sessions, 2 months. Then it's a case of you give them the tools, make yourself redundant, and ta-ra. But we had a different relationship. He picked the phone up the following sort of February, March time. Do you want to do some more work? And I remember I sort of doubt myself, thinking, he's done really well here. Can I match this?
That's nice to hear, though, that you're feeling a bit of pressure on that side of things as well. You know, you're very confident with what you've achieved at that point.
Yeah.
And you're already sitting there going, oh, bloody hell, I've probably done my job too well. And God, you're bringing up the university. Unfortunately, one of my students has come back and I've done too good of a job. So at that point, where did you go from there?
So what happens, I've got like a peer group, if you like, who you sort of, you present case studies, and you go through the work that you've done with them, etc. And it's all, again, private and confidential. So I presents this. I've done this with Chrissy, A, B, and C, blah blah blah. Feeling the pressure. What do you guys reckon? And really, it just boiled down to me overthinking it really more than out else, and I just went with the idea of visualization was one thing that really worked for him. So right, we'll keep doing that. We'll do more of that. Trying to think, and then if it meant going over, it's like covering old ground. That's cool. It's it's dead easy to get a bit fancy and try and reinvent the wheel, but actually let's just do what worked. And well, obviously, I don't think it was the following season, but the season after, he goes and wins the championship. So that was my only downside was I wasn't there. Like, I was the dirty secret who didn't get to celebrate it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I've just realised how much we've put you on the spot with this whole interview. First of all, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's because we are poking a little bit of fun at the idea of being a dirty secret, but Chrissy wasn't. This is my opinion on it. I knew that he was not seeing yourself. I knew he was like, he decided to go down this avenue because he thought this is advantageous, not as a form of weakness. And I think where people can go very wrong with that, well, I have to see a sports psychiatrist, and people associate that with is a problem, not as gaining advantage. Yeah. So that you naturally became a dirty little secret because you're going, well, I don't want to give all away my advantage on that side of things.
No, exactly, and this is where he was different to like a lot of people that I work with, where I say normally it's like 6 sessions or so to raw. He came back and he was looking for that advantage, and he was just continually like looking for something extra. I'll give you a couple of little sort of snippets into his world there. I remember there was a rival who he really liked. This is getting so a rival he really liked him as a person, but he was getting beat by him a lot, and he was like, how can I get myself angry in the state of anger when I race against him, because I want to beat the twat, basically.
Class.
And so we'd work on little things to get him to change his state. I mean, God, he was super switched on and mega intelligent. He was always wanting to. He'd look at a race, like every race differently, and he was just looking for just something that little bit different to be able to obviously to win the race, to do well. I mean, one other thing as well, which I suppose is it's poignant based on like where we are sitting in this little studio now. So I said to you guys before I came in, I felt a bit weird because the last time I was in here was about 3 days or so before he won the championship, and this doesn't happen very often when you're working with people, but he said to us, I want you to take me to a dark place, basically.
Right.
As in, I'm feeling like very nervous. I'm feeling, I suppose, shitting myself about this situation, if you like, because he'd Tom Neve had closed the gap on him, hadn't he? By in the 2 races previous. He hadn't slept a great deal in the build up to that last race. So what you tend to find is, in my work, a lot of people approach you, and when you're like thinking about a performance, they don't want to think about what's going to go wrong. And this is where he was different. He was that, and that's what I mean by the dark place. I want you to take me to some of the things that could go wrong in this final race, and how I'm going to feel about it if I throw it away, and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
And for argument's sake, and I do this a lot, like in my work, where supposing he got off to a bad start, how am I gonna come up with a little strategy, how I'm gonna counter that? I don't know, supposing somebody roughs him up, supposing, I don't know, he's actually got off to a really, really good start, how you're gonna handle the excitement and the buzz that comes with that. And yeah, as I say, not many people like will do that. And that to me, summed them up with when it comes down to going that little extra mile.
Because what I find really interesting is how you're not using bike references. Yes, you're talking about roughing up and bad starts, but you talk like the word start, that could be in any sport. Because was Chrissy your first BSB rider or not? Like working with, I mean, in that regard.
No, I mean, I've worked with. I'm trying to think. I mean, you're talking BSB, or you can go across. You can go across motocross.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Not the super stock. Just to I mean, you're talking. I've worked with. In double figures anyway between sort of a dozen to 20ish sort of thing, like so.
Because how many sports do you cover? Because because Chrissy said, well, Mark, we joked about it, but you looked up your yellow pages. It's like I would like because we'll end up talking about Chrissy yet again, and we always will. But we'd like to know a little bit more about how you became and why you became a sports psychologist. What led up to these numbers?
Yeah, I think because this podcast is probably different from any ones that I've done so far. It's
we're
probably
on the hot seat,
probably one that I'm the most excited about because it's different for me and it's something that I have a genuine interest in. But I think let's take it back and just let's know a little bit more about your story. Is it did you start in sport and you felt you needed to see someone or delve into that side of things, or was it where did it stem from for you?
Prison 72.
Deep breath.
Okay then, right. Basically, as a kid, then I played football, I played golf. Those were my two sports, and I've got the badge here, the Newcastle United. That would be the dream, to play for Newcastle. I was never good enough to do that. I was a better golfer than I was footballer, so then the dream changed to be I want to be a professional golfer. And I would say, I mean, now I play off a 2 handicap, so I'm pretty decent. I don't know if you know golf, but
not a thing about golf.
Yeah, not a clue.
Right. So it's pretty.
It's just a shame. It's just a shame you've got a handicap. That must be difficult.
Only 2 handicaps.
So anyway, it's pretty decent, right? You could turn professional. I wouldn't make any money at that level, but I could turn professional, and then I'd end up in a coaching capacity. Anyway. For me, as a kid, confidence in the mental side, I think, let us down. So I always had that interest, I suppose. I mean, sport, there wasn't anything like sports psychology at that point, but I'd read about it and what have you. Anyway, so fast forward, how many years ago? Probably about 12, 13 years or so. And this one's a sad one, and unfortunately, it's a bit morbid. Basically, my wife got diagnosed with cancer, and she was probably given around about 3 or 4 months to live. It didn't work out that way. It worked out. She ended up living for 15 months. It was bloody hard, really difficult time, and I'm like going through that period, and I'm thinking, well, I've got a life after this, if you like. I mean, I don't know, some people could say that's a bit selfish, but I'm thinking I'm not particularly enjoying what I'm doing, and how do I want to live my life?
I know age has got nothing to do with this situation, but how old were you, the pair of you?
I'm in my early 30s at that point.
Like you say, you've still got plenty of decisions to make at that point. Yeah,
I've got a mortgage and all the rest of it, no kids. Yeah. So I was working in the travel industry at that point. I was a branch manager in a corporate travel. Oh, right. So where am I going with this? Anyway, I was off work for about 3 or 4 months, just trying to deal with the enormity of it all. I was pretty much a carer for that period, and I was a mess of anything. So I did a couple of short open university courses, and just to see if the brain was working, obviously. Yeah. It's been a while. And I quite enjoyed what I was doing. It wasn't sport related, it was just general psychology. So it sort of laid the seed. I thought, well, actually, yeah, maybe I can do this. Anyway, so Alex sadly passed away in where we at? I've lost track of the years. Yeah, it was November 2008. So yeah, it was 2007 initially. August 2007 when she was diagnosed. So she died. I'm in bits, and it was bloody hard for a good few months, to say the least. Anyway, the following June, I get made redundant from my job, don't I? And I could have moved to Aberdeen. There was a job there in Aberdeen, like similar industry. I didn't want that upheaval with what had gone on. And it was a case of, well, right, stick or twist, do you probably find another role in that industry, or do you do something you really want to do? So yeah, I'd thought, well, yeah, sports psychology is where I want to go with this. I mean, boy, it's been bloody hard to get to that point, because you got to do a degree. So I went to, now better be careful what I say here, because it's Sunderland University.
Get out.
Exactly, yeah. Got a badge on here.
Take your hoodie.
So did a degree, 3 years psychology. At that point, I'm like, when you looked at sports psychology jobs, literally there was about one. The UK Sport have got a jobs page. There was about one job every 3 months in it, and so I'm thinking, you've got to then do a master's degree, you've got to do like this supervised practice period. So I could do all this, and there's no guarantee I'm going to get a job. So I was seriously thinking at that point, do I do like what's called organisational psychology and business, just simply because I knew like the prospects would be okay. But I didn't. I followed my heart. I worked part-time, did loads of little jobs. I remember I was like delivering for Hermes at one point, trying to make ends meet, and that was the case even when I was qualified initially, when I'm going through it. Yeah, so, well, I don't know, there's a long story to get to that point. And yeah, it was bloody hard like industry to get into, because as you say, people, I don't know, you just mentioned the word psychology straight away, like, oh, I've got a problem, like...
it kind of has like a negative connotation to it, doesn't it? Or the minute it's said, it's almost as if you've got a problem, so it needs fixing, which doesn't always necessarily have to be the case, does it? You could just be wanting to better yourself.
Definitely. That's what I felt like. Well, that's definitely what Chrissy was doing, and I think a lot of athletes, with the way the world has gone into mental health, I think it's more...
Certainly in the last few years, it's more spoken about, isn't it?
More approachable, more...
In general, the whole how your mind works is way more open than what I've ever known it be.
We see that. How do you see that as a professional? Do you feel like it's become more open, or...?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you just need to look at what your social media is, your internet done, like where, the top athletes are talking about it day in, day out now, isn't that? But this is the tricky bit I see now, is where it's spoken about so much by athletes. Now, if we take the tennis player, what's her name?
Not that young woman, 18-year-old who won Wimbledon. She disappeared, didn't she?
Emma Raducanu. Now, I wasn't thinking of her. Osaka, Naomi Osaka. Right. So she quit. Not she quit. She didn't play in, it was a French Open or a big tournament, and there was a lot of like pressure on her at the time, and it's happened quite a bit in other sports, and sometimes, I don't know, the crossover between like mental health and like performance anxiety and dealing with nerves is a bit of a delicate one and a tricky one. Obviously, I don't know her story. I think she's had a lot of difficulties personally. So fair play, and understand why like the mental health's been talked about with her. But some people not so. They can use the like mental health as when arguably maybe it's not. They're just not.
So do you mean it's almost been not misdiagnosed? It's not necessarily diagnosed, but it's almost being miscompartmentalized, because actually it was the same pressure that girl would always have had, or that athlete, but then they're saying, it's because of something else, because it's more in the... Is that what you're trying to say? Is that how you mean?
Yeah, maybe it's just... It's really... It's a difficult one to define, and I think maybe when you're young, you're in your teens, your 20s, it's very easy to think, all right, I've got a mental health problem here. But maybe actually you haven't. It's just more...
Do you think in a way that kind of happens... It seems a lot more prevalent, but do you think it's also potentially the modern world, which I think is pressurized, and I think social media is a big factor of that. But then also, do you think it's sometimes even a buzzword and people potentially latch onto it? Do you see that? Or
no, potentially. I think that there is that in it. I mean, you get some people who talk about snowflake generation and all this of younger people, and it's different.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Now people are more open to talk about how they're thinking, how they're feeling, and that's a good thing ultimately. But then again, it can just muddy the waters, obviously.
And that's speaking as a professional. Like, if you're trying. That has just made your job twice as hard as what it already is. Stepping into this episode with you, it's wow.
Well, I mean, when you're sitting down with someone for the first session, maybe they approach you, I want to race faster. You're not just thinking about your relationship, your thoughts, like with the bike and racing. You are going into how's things at home, how's things with your team, your sleep, your lifestyle, the full works. You're trying to map it all out as to how am I going to help this person? So there's a lot of crossover. I mean, one thing I would say with the mental health thing, and I think this is an important one for anybody watching or listening. When it comes down to like sports psychology, you've going to have to be careful what I say, but
you are on Chasin the Racin. We're not on your pod, It's not the way right. You can say what you want on this show. You're all snowflakes.
Get on with it.
Exactly.
Brake late, accelerate harder. There's a championship. There's the invoice. Champions.
So I alluded to the fact, look, I did 7 years worth of training. I got a HCPC registrations. That's the Healthcare Professions Council. There's a fair few people out there who try to call themselves a sports psychologist, and they've read a book or two. And that worries me, and that pisses off a lot of people in our field, because I mean, let's face it, it must have cost me 50-60 grand to and a hell of a lot of hard work, blood, sweat and tears, and then somebody does that. It is a protected title, so I suppose anybody watching this who does want to work with a sports psychologist, I would say do your homework on who you're working with. But then the other difficulty with it is, like, so with the mental health bit, I'll work like proactively, I would say, with mental health. So I've got a a basic understanding of mental health, but if I feel like the line is crossed, then I'm going to refer it to a clinical psychologist, a counselling psychologist, etc. But there will be some sports psychologists out there who will purely just look at the sport performance element, and there'll be some who may also have the clinical sort of skill set as well, and they're a bit of both clinical and sport, so they'll do the whole shebang. So it's complex. I mean, you said before there about me being a sports psychiatrist. Now, I've got to be honest here.
I did wonder that terminology.
I had to Google like the sports psychiatrist before we came here, because you mentioned on the phone call that we had a couple of weeks ago, just to see what a sports psychiatrist, what the difference was. And I suppose I'm not that much the wiser, other than all I know is a psychiatrist has to have like a medical doctor sort of background. So they, they're in a position where they prescribe pills and etc. Whereas obviously for me, I couldn't tell you anything about the medication side of things. In fact, I wouldn't even take paracetamol if I had a headache.
I'm sorry, but if there is a faster pill out there, anyone listening,
we want some.
No, you've had yours. Piss off. I want them. 100%.
But so you spoke before about you could have actually, when you were going through your degree and everything, you could have gone into like business side of things.
Yeah.
So clearly, or potentially, there is some quite a large crossover. So I've got my question is there a sort of a character trait, or are successful people, I don't know how you define successful people, I guess it's people who achieve their goals, is there character traits that you see that not just in sport, but is that a similar character traits that you see in business or in all walks of life? So in general, do people that do achieve their goals or get to the pinnacle of what they're trying to get to, do they all have similar character traits, similar?
Yeah, good question. I mean, yeah, there's similarities.
So is business and sport the same? Is it?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a massive crossover. I'll work with people higher up in the police to like different execs, and you get like very similar challenges. So, I mean, one thing I would say is that naturally, look, if you're going to be a high achiever, you're highly driven, aren't you? You say you're going to do it, and you do it. So you're committed. You keep your promises. Confidence. You're confident in your ability to be able to do your work. What your emotions, you're able to handle pressure in that respect, emotional control. There's probably an element of risk there as well, risk takers. I think where it can get some success, you often hear about successful people who sort of go over the edge, if you like. And I think for me, self-awareness is the critical thing in all this. So, you can be mega committed, driven to your craft, but if you're not really fully in sync and in tune with that, then you can burn yourself out quite easily, and then your form takes a dip. So you need to be aware of that. Confidence side of things, you can be super confident in your ability, but then do you get complacent maybe, and you lose that little edge? Or if you're in a team sport setting, that confidence might not go down well with like some of your teammates who aren't as confident. Then you're seen as arrogant, and it causes a problem. I mean, I suppose, I know we're talking individual sport, really, or motorsport, yeah, but in some ways it's a team sport, isn't it?
I suppose motorsport's a really difficult one, because it's the individual that gets the plaudits, shall we say, but then you need a fantastic team around you to actually achieve anything at all.
You do, and I mean, I've worked with riders who've been in teams that where the culture, the environment hasn't been brilliant. And if I go back to the confidence bit, it could well be sparked by someone who is very assured and confident in their, like in themselves, but they're not able. They just basically see black or white. They're not open to what I suppose in my line of work you're talking about emotional intelligence. So they're not really emotionally aware of how they impact other people, and then it ends up putting pressure on the rider, and so on and so forth. Other one, like emotional control in a team, like emotional control. Hey, fantastic when you're racing, but if you're like that, sort of day in, day out, then people cannot read you, so they're not really sure where they stand with you. So there's great traits, but you as I say, self-awareness is the key. Like, you need to be aware of the downsides as well, and where you can get pulled apart.
I was sort of smiling at the last one, because the last one resonates quite a lot with me. I'm quite level in everything that I do,
right?
And it's something I do on purpose, especially when I'm racing. I feel like I always race better when I'm calm and relaxed, and I don't need to be sort of fired up for the occasion. I find that I feel better. It's not that I'm not fired up for it, but I feel better on the bike when I'm just sort of in my sort of happy place. But then I think people can also read that incorrectly, that you have a lack of passion.
Yeah.
And it's how other people read what you're doing is quite interesting, because I know on the inside what the fire that burns bright, but then if other people don't see it, they read it in a different way. But it's interesting, all the things that you said, there's obviously a tipping point in all those different things. So confidence can look like arrogance, or exactly. However it is, and all those ways that you impact on other people as well, that does show that it is a team sport in that respect, because you have to have I guess we've got that age-old adage in racing that a happy rider is a fast rider. Would you agree with that?
Oh no,
Happy rider's a fast rider.
Yeah, that's always
no. You know what? No, what? Okay, for the audio listeners alone, his eyes did 3 somersaults in his skull there.
I feel like I said something wrong.
You know how many years of training? Sorry, in university alone, 7 years. Just went. You're wrong, Christian.
No.
no. But
no, it was me thinking. Is a happy rider a fast rider? I mean, yeah, they are. I mean, that's your job, isn't it? Ultimately, to get from here.
It's hard because it goes hand in hand. Because when you're fast, you're happy, and when you
yeah, exactly. I was just thinking, like, away from the sport. Yeah, you could be like miserable, couldn't you? Sin. So yeah, maybe you're happy for that. That 5 minutes that 20 minutes, half an hour or so at the time, and then afterwards. But then you go back home and you're not very happy. So there's crossovers. Yeah. Yeah. Don't know.
no, it's interesting. I just I've been trying to form this question in my mind. Can you manipulate any rider? And now the manipulation is probably the wrong word to use, but you're talking about confidence and overconfidence. If you've got one characteristic stronger than another, could you switch that? But then the person's got to be willing to switch. That is a very
you've got to be. I think you've just got to be very open, like with this, and as I say, just being aware of, like, before you want to go out there, how do I want to be today, sort of thing. How do I want to race? That's the key, and just like be aware of yourself and your state, which is easier said than done at times. Obviously, the nerves kick in and everything. Everybody's a little bit different, aren't they, in that way? I mean, we talked about that. I mean, I mentioned risk taking before. Like, I would say probably naturally anybody in your sport is going to be pretty high on that level. But if you're like uber high, then obviously you got to try and rein yourself in a little bit, haven't you? At times, like,
yeah, we were sort of talking about this a little bit before, and it's funny because in racing you get I look at it a slightly different way, but you get people that say, oh, if you say, oh, race bikes, you go, oh, you're crazy. But I genuinely think it's actually the opposite. So when you're racing, you're always assessing risk, essentially. So we all know as riders, we all know we think we know our own physical capabilities and the bike's capabilities, and we go round within a certain speed that we believe we're going to get round the track in and finish the race. I mean, in motorcycle racing, a mistake is punished harder than in most other sports because, okay, there's a risk of injury, but then basically if you one mistake and you're out of the race, so then it's a complete no-no. So for example, in golf, okay, maybe you might slice a shot and you've still got another shot to go.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about golf, but
he's a 2 handicap, so he's the shit. He knows everything about.
But you know what I mean? Like, whereas in we're not allowed to get back on the bike, so it's race over. So it's punished quite heavily. But actually, when you're racing, all you're doing is risk assessment all the time, 1,000,000 times a second. So if you're going to make a move, you're lining that guy up in front and you're assessing, right, okay, what's the chance of me making this stick? And am I going for a championship? Have I got nothing to lose because I'm not in the championship? And you do that every corner of every lap of every race. Yeah. And actually, I think we're all, as riders, my take on it is actually we're not risk takers in a way, but you do get those, I think, that are more, you see the ones that will make a bigger move, and they have obviously a higher tendency to take those risks. And then you also see people, so we've got, for example, Marc Marquez, who I think he's the best example, but he's not afraid to crash 3 or 4 or 5 times a session. If it's free practice, he'll go out there and just do it again, whereas other people might work in a different way. So it's interesting how the risk levels may be different for different people. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And then I suppose you've got that personal circumstances as well, haven't you? Like, you know, if it's your own bike, your own team, maybe it's I'm trying to think. I don't know. It just, if you've got things going on behind the scenes, you're right. You're looking for a new team in the future. It depends what's at stake. If you're riding with an injury, things like that.
I mean, you do often see it, don't you? Or you hear the commentators say it about a rider who's riding for his job, as in he hasn't got a ride, and then they always go well at the end of the season, for example, or even the other way, they've renewed a contract and then they ride free.
Yeah.
That's like, speaking as the ride is concerned, it's the punishment, not the injury. And I think that's how I feel. You know, I don't get on a bike thinking I'm going to hurt myself. I just feel like it's interesting you're talking about personal circumstances as far as financial. It's like if I cartwheel a motorcycle, that's me out for the year. And all I want to do is, that's in my circumstances, I want to race a bike. But then if I crash my bike, I can't race my bike. But then I want to do well at the sport. But then if I crash my bike, I can't ride a bike. And then you're thinking, you're on like, that's...
Yeah. And then if you threw in, say, I don't know, a couple of months of bad form where you're not performing, then the pressure keeps building and building. Then, well, yeah, at some point you're probably going to take more risks, aren't you? And like your natural personality just goes out the window in some ways. And I bet, a lot of people will have been in that boat before.
Have you had a lot of riders, like we're talking about riders and this? I tell you what, you can actually answer this to any sport. Can you in our situation, can you override? Can you do too much riding? Is a break as good as is it like a change as good as a rest as good as a change? In that side of things,
I think it is in any sport really.
Because using the golf yet again, I know we're not about golf.
Yeah.
But it's such a
well, I suppose
like throwing darts at the dartboard. You know that.
Here's a classic example. I mean, I'll use myself with golf. So as a kid, I'd practice basically till my hands bled. You know, that's what I was told. You know, the more you practice makes perfect, basically. What an absolute whole load of bollocks. So now I've got 2 young kids. I don't have a great deal of time to play, so I play once a week. And I'm a far better player now than I was, God knows how many years ago. So it doesn't stack up. So I don't know. What I see, and I find this a lot with people that I work with, it's not always like what you put into it, and that commitment level often, doesn't get rewarded. For me, it's like sometimes less is more, and it's about like the quality of the time that you put into it. That's huge. If you go to the gym for argument's sake, and you're there like in body, but you're not really there in spirit. You're going at it at 80%. Like,
what's the point?
Exactly. What good's that going to do? But if you maybe shorten your session from an hour to 20 minutes and you go all in for 20 minutes, then that's a much better benefit. And I suppose if you think about it mentally in that way, if say you're that person, right, who goes to the gym 4 times a week for an hour, but every time you go you're at 80%, 70%, yet you decide, right, stuff that, I'm going to shake my regime up and I'm going to go in 20 minutes a day, I'm going at 150%, then I think that then builds up like a real positive mentality and focus and everything. So yeah.
No, that's interesting, because like I see people like always riding, always compete, like even like motocross, and I try to do as much as I can, and I feel like that risk and reward element, and like Chrissy used to refer to that all the time. It's like I'd ride across it, I'd feel like I'm getting fitter, but then you'd still ride at 80%. Feel like if I chuck it up the road here, I can't go riding. It's like it's like if you injure yourself, and you do a lot of motocross riding yourself, and it's
for me, my everyone's thought process is different. So for me, riding motocross, and it's interesting, your thought process and my thought process is a little bit different on it. So like for me, going motocrossing, of course I don't go absolutely like mental on the bike. I try not to. If
I can just see this being 99% now.
No, but
I drop 1% Herbertson, I'm calm.
there's a percentage off for sure, but like my granddad always used to go mental at me for going motocrossing, because he's like, like you're going to get hurt. But I know that makes me sharper. So for me, I would rather get onto the short circuit bike as sharp as can be. So my thought process around it was, I might as well have run the risk of getting injured, but be 100% on the road race bike, than being not injured because I hadn't been motocrossing, but be at 80% on the road race bike because I wasn't sharp. So I'd rather run the risk of injury.
You would see it as a hindrance. So if you didn't do those motocross sessions, you would turn up at like
I
a
wouldn't
short
feel
circuit,
as sharp, yeah.
and you would see that
So
as a
for me,
media
in my
defect.
head, I'm like, yeah, that's worth doing. The risk-reward element is worth doing.
Now, if Christian came to you and said, I want to change that mentality, is that possible?
Yes.
That's a very blunt question, but it's interesting to say, I want to change this.
Yeah, as a general rule, if someone comes to you with something, how easy is it to change most things?
If they want to change it.
So willingness is that's step one.
It's like, I would say like a mental readiness, which is a willingness. So I'll give you an example of a footballer I've worked with who is that classic person we just talked about, who works their bollocks off and you help do loads of extras by themselves. They'll be after training sessions doing extras and what have you, and they're on YouTube. It's just all consumed. Now, my question to them is, well, is what you're doing actually, making you feel good? Is it giving you confidence? Nah, it's about doing it because of anxiety, really. Like, I have to do this to make the grade, sort of thing.
Right.
So that to me, like, it's like the feeding that body, if you like, with the wrong emotions there. But if they're like, well, if they're obsessed by David Goggins, which they are, and a lot of people are, you must work your ass off and do it. Then, and they're watching these motivational clips on Instagram day in, day out. That is blooming hard to shift. But the reality is, if they maybe tailed that back by 20%, 30%. And I don't know, had another activity, I don't know, do a bit of kickboxing or whatever it is, and had a little bit of fun, then it's probably going to just maybe the body tension wise and that anxiety, it's probably just going to drop a little bit, and then that'll free them up and they can go and perform a bit better.
Do you believe you can be over fixated on a task at hand or something like that? So say you've got your football, if that footballer was, can you do too much? As in, can that become such a focus? Is there something that can be too focused on something that it become detrimental, or is 100% focus 100% focus?
So I mean, yeah, you'll find that what top people are like 100%, aren't they? But then and this is where the mentality is, though, isn't it? It's like, what's that line? Can you care like maximum, sort of to the max, but also be carefree at the same time? And they're able to do that, aren't they? They're able to allow themselves just to do what they need to do. And but yeah,
this is an endless vicious cycle, this, isn't it? I want you to be 100%, but at 50% of the time, it's like. I tell you what, for anyone listening or watching this, not enjoying this, I don't give a shit, because I'm soaking this. It's not going to sink in, but I'm like, it's incredible. No, it's interesting because you're talking about winding that back, but then you throw in another curveball by being like,
well, because to me all this is so interesting, because obviously we're in the moment, we race, and for me it's always been an interest for me. I did my degree in sports science, so I had a little bit of knowledge, but nowhere near, not even close. We only touched on these sort of things. It's even back then it wasn't really sort of fully sort of touched upon, certainly not in the subject I did. But yeah, it's something I've never sort of gone into, but I do see things in myself that potentially you can improve. So it is interesting. But the reason I asked then is I found there was a point where I was becoming too focused on racing, and it became almost too much all-encompassing. And I've always had a separate job outside of racing, and I actually think that I did it to turn my brain off from being always on racing, because it was, and every job I've always done, it's always been very sort of not menial tasks, but just very sort of like moving block and brick, or
working for Matt Late.
Well, yeah, or doing moving stuff, drilling holes, whatever it is, but just like really just stuff you can just switch your brain off to.
Yeah,
that's always sort of worked for me, almost as a turn off, and also to bring me back down to a different level.
I tend to agree there. I mean, if you look at like different everybody's a little bit different on the personality wise, where some people need like something else away from that sport, and that allows them to take the pressure off.
Everything for me, obviously it's easy for me to bring it back to myself because I know my own sort of situations. But an interesting one for me is how people perform differently when they've got children. So I've just not long had a child, and then all of a sudden, actually for me, I find that better because I've actually, instead of going to work now as a separate thing, as a switch off, he's my switch off, if that makes sense. But it's still, you've got a different focus.
Especially in our sport, it's like the children thing is a very, very inapt subject.
I find it interesting.
It's because I know a lot of people, the road race element, they have kids and they decide to stop because of the risk element. But then let's talk about the fastest riders. Like Peter Hickman's the only person who hasn't had a kid that he knows of. Let's face it. But like the rest, he'll be laughing at that, man. He's got a good sense of humour. But like you talk about, like Dean Harrison got kids, gone faster. James Hillier had kids, gone faster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's it's incredible, and that for me. You've just explained it on that side of things.
Have you got kids or not?
I can't even look after myself. Let's face it. No, mind another human being.
There you go.
No. The human.
Yeah, you could be in the
Imagine that
132 club.
I'll tell you what. Imagine that going
You're gonna
home.
have to go home and get jiggy now, Dom.
I know. Just go home. Just go. This is happening.
I know
This is going to be an awkward 9 months into this.
A professional told me.
I will race faster if I have a child.
I can't afford it. Imagine that, Dad. When did you say I have kids? One child.
I'm surprised you haven't quickly cut this podcast short and run out the door.
I'm genuinely thinking
to
about
go and
like,
collect it.
Well, I met a bloke. I called him Carlton instead of Charlton. You know what I mean? Got his name wrong, and like. I'm not thinking about it. Can we change the story?
Let's move on.
Imagine if I had kids and I went faster. 132. Imagine the price of speed is having children. Is this the sum of it?
I'm just thinking about it. Can I turn the tables a little bit here? And
No, you can't.
And just ask a question I would normally ask, like I was doing in a session, right? Just as, in a way, we're doing a little mini sports psychology session.
This is cool. I like this.
Yeah, right.
I might not like it.
I'm having kids tonight, so I'm in a different world right now.
Okay.
Down, boy.
I'm psyching myself up. It's like,
I can see.
No, you can't.
You can sit and laugh in the corner, right? So, what's your favourite food?
Probably Indian if I was going to have something.
Pasta.
Okay. So Indian, now you're out of the picture.
Champion.
For a second. Indian, what kind of Indian food then?
Oh, this is good. I'm going to sound so pathetic now.
Chicken tikka masala.
No, it's not even that. It's a korma.
Korma, right?
I just like dipping the Peshwari naan in the korma sauce. That's a bit of me.
Okay, so korma, right?
I'm never going to make it. I can tell. I'm being judged. So I should.
Yeah.
So imagine here, right? We've got this. Obviously, we've got Kit Kats and different things here. But imagine that's your korma there, with your rice and your naan and what have you, right?
Yeah. No, I don't have the rice. Just naan.
Really?
Yeah. No, just like the naan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coconutty goodness.
So that would be like the outcome, right? Of the different ingredients, so the herbs and stuff that go into the sauce, the chicken, and obviously the naan, right? So that's the outcome, right? Okay, so now then we'll just flip to racing. Suppose you've got a race of the weekend. What's success to you?
Normally, it should be winning races. I had to change my outcome, my goals this year. But yeah, normally success is only winning.
Okay, right. So if we equate that then, so winning is an outcome, yeah. The korma, lovely korma that's sitting in front of us, is an outcome. So I mentioned there about to make that korma, we need like obviously some chicken and different ingredients. We need to stick it in the oven, etc. So if you equate that to your winning, like what are the key ingredients for you to be able to win this weekend?
I see. So the ingredients to success.
Yeah.
I think the ingredients are having the physical capabilities, which I believe I've got. I do believe that mental side of things is very important. And then there's also things that are outside of my control, which is the bike, how it performs, and how well the team performs.
Okay, so if I was working with you, I'd be well. Firstly, like the physical side of things. Obviously, hopefully you've taken care of that because you've been in the gym.
Yeah,
So-
sorry, I meant actually the ability to go fast is what I meant.
Right. Okay.
But physicality as well, but the actual ability. Sorry, but yeah,
So the ability to go fast. So from a psychological part, is that like what do you like feeling there? Like, is it bravery? Is it what is it?
not bravery. I think that it's an interesting one, isn't it? But some people have an ability and a skill level. It is a physical skill that is a thing, but then I don't know. You then have to hone it to be as good as you can be.
Yeah,
But you have to tailor that around the bike and everything else.
Okay. It's a challenge, this one.
Is it?
Yeah. This is good being put on the spot, isn't it, on camera? Right. So you're making notes here, aren't you?
I
Right.
am,
So obviously the bike needs to be tip top in order for you to win. Yeah. Right. You've got your physical conditioning needs to be good. I'm guessing if we break this down, right? So you need to get off to a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So good, pretty clean start in that way. When you're in the middle laps, like what mindset do you need to have like during the race?
I'm thinking BSB. It's interesting. Tends to be trying to save a tire in the middle of it. I was trying to breathe my way through a race. So this is very personal, but for me, there's two types of races. There's races where you haven't quite got the pace, in which case it's hard to ever gather your thoughts because everything's happening too fast. Or there's times when I call it when you can breathe. So literally you can take a breath and actually everything comes quite easy. And it's almost when it's really rare, but sometimes you get your spidey senses where the world sort of slows down. And that's when you're really firing on all cylinders.
Okay.
So you try and get in, personally, I try and get into a rhythm if I can in the middle and try and make the world slow down as much as I can. It's not always possible because sometimes, say, there's a group in front of you that are going away from you and you haven't got the pace for whatever reason.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So but in the middle, I'm trying to gather myself together if possible. It's not always possible.
Naturally. So in a way, then you'd be sort of clear in your mind, and you'd be able to like make some really smart decisions, basically along the way.
Yeah, but it doesn't. But that doesn't always happen for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, naturally, because there's curveballs left, right, and centre thrown at you. Okay. So what have we got then? So we've got this. You breathing and ideally trying to make some space for yourself. Is there any other little secret ingredients of like success, if you like, for you to win this damn race?
Not from me, I don't think.
No? Okay. So what, do you finish the race 3 or 4 laps before the end, or I don't think you do you?
Oh no.
Have you got it? Exactly. So what about the last few laps? What state or do you need to be in to be able to finish strongly, basically?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess my mind just focuses by the time you get to a certain point on maximising whatever you can do within that situation. So whatever's happened from the start, trying to get away well. The first few laps are always hectic, so you're always trying to just get through. The middle bit, like I say, trying to get yourself into the best position possible. And then by the time you get to about 3 or 4 laps to go, I guess my thought process is trying to maximise the situation that I'm in. So obviously the main goal always has to be to win. But by that point, you've realised that may or may not be a possibility, but maybe you can see 5th place and you know that you can get to there and you're 8th at the moment or whatever it is. So trying to maximise the situation, I guess.
Yeah. Okay then. So where are we going with this now? So yeah, we've got about 4 or 5 key points there, haven't we? Which are your key ingredients to the person who puts themselves under a ridiculous amount of pressure. Like I must win.
Yeah.
That would always be my advice. Is right. Think about those 4 or 5 things. Print them off, have them on your phone, put them in your bedroom, and like do your damn hardest to nail those 5 things. And if you do that, race in, race out, then let's be honest, you're probably going to have a 7 out of 10 performance most of the time. Obviously, there's things outside your control.
Not even anywhere near that this year, to be fair.
Yeah.
More like a 3 out of 10. But thanks. But I guess so in that reference, the way what you did basically was try to break down. So I suppose what you're trying to do then is an end goal might seem ridiculously difficult or hard to achieve, but then if you break it down into the steps, each step is achievable.
And I mean, I would go one step further if we had more time and we're doing in a session. Where would be
I was simplifying it, but
that'd be like then, right, okay, so what's actually under your control here and what's not, and would be the stuff that's outside your control. Let's hide that to one side and just concentrate on those nitty gritty things. And you can feel a hell of a lot lighter by just simply doing that. Yeah,
by breaking the task down into...
Yeah.
It's funny because I do quite a lot of endurance type activities, and then the missus is going to run a marathon and she's stressing about it because she's thinking about the full distance. And I've tried to break it down to her, and you just think, okay, well, you've run 3K. You just need to do that 15 times, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then, when you start breaking it down, or the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step and all that, and you just... I tell her, every step's a step nearer to the end, or those sort of things. That there is ways, isn't there, to almost trick the brain, I guess, into making the task smaller. Would that be correct? The end result's the same, but
no, you're right. I think where people can go wrong is, I'll borrow your pen for a second. I'll just try
pen and paper as well.
Right, where's the camera over here? Right.
Yeah.
So we've got like the past over here.
Yeah.
Future over there, and then present in the middle there. If all you're thinking about is winning, you're over here really, aren't you? A lot of the time you're in the future, you're trying to predict what's going on. And if you think, you always hear the thing about being in the zone.
Yeah.
If you're in the zone,
in the moment,
you're just thinking about exactly what's happening right in front of you. But it's human nature to be over here, as in it's human nature to be there. So I don't know, maybe you've slowed down, you've with a going around a turn badly, so you're in your own head, why'd I do that, blah blah, and then you flip to predicting like that might have cost us the race and all that sort of stuff. Like that's totally normal, but rather than fighting it for the rest of the race, if you recognize that, and then just bring yourself back to the moment and just think about what it is that you have to do now, whether it's the person in front of you or the marker on the markers on the course, whatever it is. That's obviously the very simple way. But then, on a day-to-day level, like you're talking about the running the marathon, that's ultimately that's going to help her as well. If she just thinks about the next 100 yards or the next person in front of her, etc.
I mean, we've just had the last race, not just had, but we've had the last race of BSB, and there was a lot of, between Glenn Irwin and Tommy Bradwell, there was a lot of, I don't really know how to describe it, but...
bitchiness.
I wasn't going to say that, but there was a lot of aggro. There'd been a big coming together. And from an outside perspective, okay, I was racing, but I was from outside because I wasn't in that race per se. The way they both handled themselves, I think, from a pressure point of view, was actually quite impressive. And I don't know how much you watched that and how they handled it, but Glenn had to go out and win all the races, and he did his job basically, and Tommy had to finish where he had to finish. But actually, going into the last lap, there was a enormous amount of pressure on the pair of them in slightly different ways, because it was Tommy's to lose and Glenn's to win. But so, sort of from your perspective, if you were sort of working with those guys, would you approach how you worked with them slightly differently because they were in slightly different situations, or would the approach still be the same?
I think you've got to approach every situation, every person differently. But then your general tools, in my case, the toolkit, doesn't really change. You probably have, I don't know, if you think of a builder, you've probably got 5 or 6 stock tools that you go to, but ultimately, don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, you'd use your techniques, but in a slightly different way to
Yeah,
because one was a chaser and one's a chase, weren't they, in that respect? So
exactly. But the ultimate thing gets back to, you know, those sort of key ingredients that are under your control, being able to throw the external stuff to one side. And I mean, because everything happens so fast in motorsport, you really, you're trying to help people not get too far ahead of themselves. Yeah.
I'm going to put you in a lot of trouble. I'm going to talk about this toolkit.
Oh, okay.
But what is the easiest sport to work with in your position, and what's the most difficult sport you work with?
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Sport, and I don't think there is an easier sport.
Oh, you shy bag, Howie. Come on. Come on.
It's different. Well, I'm going to go with tennis, right? Tennis can be... Actually, no.
No, tennis is very tactical and everything.
Let's
talk about swimming.
Difficult.
Like,
swim.
Swimming is racing, isn't it? It's putting...
Yeah.
But then, like, I wrote a little note
but
here.
Then gymnastics is bloody hard, though, because people get mental blocks, right? So do you want to demonstrate? I showed you before doing backward, cartwheels and stuff like that outside. Do you want to demonstrate for people now?
I can fall out of there, mate. That's as simple as that. No, but you're right, though.
So anyway, joking aside, though, with gymnastics, right? So you could train a hell of a lot, and maybe for 3, 4, 5 years, everything's going hunky-dory with all your skills. And then all of a sudden, one day, you have a fall. And then that imprint is up here. So the next time you go and do it, you obviously there's a bit of doubt there, and perhaps you don't do the skill the way you want to do it. And maybe, I don't know, the following day you come back, and you have 10 attempts at it. 7 times out of 10 you do it, 3 you don't. But then the next day it's like it gets worse and worse, and before you know it, over a period of time, you're unable to do the skill, basically, which means you kind of get top marks in that particular sport. That is, I find, is like really, really tough to then help someone to get it back.
So that's almost to the confidence side of things the hardest, is it?
Well,
would you call that confidence or not?
So, I mean, there is an element of confidence to it, but now we're going a bit deeper. Like, what I'm thinking is, if you think of the brain as a hard drive, right? Okay, so I was going to use these biscuits, but I'll not bother.
We're not sponsored by Gold Bars.
They're not biscuits, they're chicken korma.
We're like we're food in this house, don't we?
And Karen's a feeder. We say it all the time on this show.
So he has like a folder, if you like, on my hard drive. In that folder is a memory of which so you can visualize the memory of you crashing and tumbling and falling, but attached in that folder is emotion, obviously, maybe embarrassment, fear, all of this sort of stuff. Then another one goes in, and another one, and before you know it, this hard drive of yours is like stored with a hell of a lot of negative movies, if you like, and the emotion. Now, I think that's the emotions, the tricky part. It's the real tricky part. How you then get how you then help someone become like comfortable being uncomfortable, if you like. So they're standing there ready to do the move, and they're visualizing maybe a fall. If they're calm and visualize that, then you can maybe do something about it. But if they're standing there trying to do the move and they're visualizing this and they're like up to here, and they're like I suppose they're having like a PTSD response, then they're overcome by fear, then there's absolutely no way they're going to be able to do that move. And that's blooming hard to overcome. Like, and I've been thinking about it in a racing perspective. Maybe to some people, on the start line, maybe they've experienced some similar things, or if if you've been involved in crashes, and you'll experienced probably some like sort of PTSD style responses. Yeah.
I've got a very, very random question. But what is the definition of a psychopath? No, I'm being serious. I know.
It is
No, it is random. It's very random. But what is the because basically people want to come up to you. I know. Report me to the someone Google it, right? Seriously, someone Google it, because people are coming up to you. Like there's questions in myself, and when you're talking about a PTSD situation and that hard drive, people are coming up to you. Like I would go up to you and say, I want that deleted.
Okay, right. Well,
so it's like, and what I mean about the psychopath element is a bit like that psychopathic nature of going, no, like there's just no connection to that fear element and just going.
Okay, right. Well,
here we go. Another question.
So, going back to the skill set of the person that you're working with. So I've got like hypnosis under as one of my tools. That can be helpful. I've got a colleague who's based in Italy, who the two tools in her toolkit which are additional to me are, one's called brain spotting, one's called EMDR, which is about eye movement desensitization. Now there would be like really like sort of weird things for people to experience, but it's essentially what her toolkit does is you're never going to get rid of the memories, the visions that go on, but it dampens down the emotions. So then check my podcast out. I couldn't tell you what number episode it is, but she talks about it, and I mean basically it's helping people with trauma essentially.
Give your podcast a shout out there. If people listen to that, so what is the name of your podcast?
Demystifying Mental Toughness.
There you are. Say it after a few pints.
Yeah. It's
I've just listened to Demystifying. I'll send you the link in the morning.
Yeah, it's one of the episodes like early on in my first 20 episodes, I think. Yeah, trauma, the yips, and something else.
The yips that's like snooker players and dart players, and they get that sort of thing, don't they?
So if you were the dart board, I'm throwing the dart at you. I hit Dom.
That's because you eat kormas.
Goes out the side of my hand. But yeah, the golfer would have a putt this long and yip it and then yip it, and it would be carnage. It would be terrible to watch.
And is a lot of that about pressure in the moment? Because it's funny how we certainly get in racing people who perform not as well in a race situation, so when the actual event happens, so they might practice or qualify very well and then don't perform quite the same, or potentially the other way around. So I, again, from a personal perspective, I'm practice and qualify absolutely shite, but then when I get in a race situation, that's my happy place and everything. I feel much calmer, and I race better, and I try 100% in both scenarios. But do you work with people that you try to get that parity? Because I actually can't work out whether I'm good at racing and shit at qualifying, or the other way around, if you know what I mean. Like it's
right. So
he's regretting coming on this pod now, isn't he?
He's going to send an invoice afterwards, and I'll be fixed.
We're like a bit of an outside bet on Chasin the Racin, so we'll just we'll delete this episode. It'll never happen. We'll just put the money on Chrissy right now.
I just mean because it must be something that plenty of sports people you work with. I'm sure it's quite I know of it from people that I know in sport that struggle to perform when the pressure is really on. And I guess the main thing is when, say it's, for example, an Olympic scenario. So that person's trained for 4 years, and then all of a sudden the pressure situation gets upon them. And from what I've done it in my course, what they always tell you is that you train for a specific purpose, so don't do anything differently. What tends to happen is people do something extra for the occasion, which they didn't train for because that's not what you did.
Yeah. No, you see that a lot where, I mean, I suppose if you think of a marathon runner, or a boxer for that matter, the marathon runner for the last month, they're tapering down their training. The boxer the last week, they would be doing it. But so many people do it the opposite way, don't they? In other sports where you got a week before a race or whatever it is, and they do 10 times as much. Totally the wrong thing to do. Just do what you normally would. Anyway, if I'm helping you, then trying to gain some consistency in your qualifying and then in your race, and I would be looking at your expectations. So I'm getting a proper full-on session here, right?
No. But sorry, I didn't mean for me. So I was just saying how I was just explaining sort of how I perform. But do you work with people that perform better in different scenarios? Is what I mean.
Yeah. I mean that I would say that's like one of the most common things. I'm going to shout like a podcast again. Yeah. So I had a period, I think it was last year, where I did around about 6 or 7 episodes in a row, which was all about basically how you transfer your skills from training to the competitive environment. And we looked at basketball, football, golf, all different sports. So yeah, useful to look at that is, where am I going with this? So yeah, anyway, get back to expectations. I would, what do you expect from yourself when you're qualifying, for argument's sake?
So this is the strange thing. So for me personally, my expectations are the same for both situations, but for some reason there's something inside me that I'm calmer in a certain situation, which actually is the more risky or situation where I've got more people around me. I'm calmer in that situation. But yeah, that's a personal thing for me. But when people come to you, what's the most so they phone you up and they say, I want to work with a sports psychologist.
Yeah.
What seems to be the most common reason that they want to do that? Is it because they think they've got an issue, or they just want to better themselves? So break it down into two things for one.
Yeah, there's an issue basically.
Right. So it starts with a negative normally.
Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, you'd love it to be the other way around, where somebody comes to you they're in a positive situation, but yeah, let's be honest, it's human nature, innit? We get comfortable dead easy, don't we? So we're doing well. So yeah, why do I need to get it better?
Yeah.
And again, though, I do wonder, does that may well separate the great from the really, really good, because they're pushing, they always want an extra 1%.
But then you're going back to, you have to be 100%, 50% of the time. This is there's so many difficult questions to ask here, but then they just come out so stupid, especially from me. But what is it? And we refer to it on the show all the time. It's like you just said it there. You're talking about you can be great at something, but then
let's go level, full Simon Cowell. What's the X factor?
That is the X factor. But then I don't think anyone can. If anyone can answer that,
we're all different, aren't we?
Yeah.
But Jesus,
it's different. It is different to mine. Yeah. So
all right. What about? Probably a more equally as hard question. But what does talent mean to you? Because the reason I'm asking that is because he introduced me to a book called Bounce, about table tennis, and he must have referred that to you loads of time. And I genuinely believe, this is taught about me, that I'm seriously untalented on a motorcycle, but I want it, and I work, and it's a skill set. And then these conversations that we've had over 200 episodes, it always bounces around. It is a skill set, and it always refers back to the mental approach of motorcycle racing. It is in your head. And this is where that question comes on to you. What does a talented person have? What is talent mean to you in an athlete?
What does talent mean to me? Yeah,
that's such a shit good question. If that makes sense,
I mean, you've got to have some sort of natural ability, haven't you? Let's face it. If you go into the top level, you have to. But then you've.
But I can ride a bike.
Yeah.
But then he's quicker than me round it, so it's a bit like, is he more skilled than me? He's got to be, hasn't he?
I'm saying nothing. I don't.
No, it's right though, isn't it? But then the mental approach.
But it also depends where you are, because I'm not. If we went on a short circuit, I should have the upper hand. But if we went around the roads, then I wouldn't see which way you went.
But you see, then that's mental, because then your skill set is still stronger than mine. But then we get to the TD, it's like that mental approach totally hindrances that dynamic of it.
But again, I suppose
This is the paradox of a show.
No, but I suppose
There's no answers.
I suppose
There's no
that's
answers.
knowing the risk, and knowing your way around it. Like I always think, like if you had racing, right? If you had racing, so I think this is interesting, right? If you had to go racing and all you were allowed was knee sliders, right? Because you don't want to graze your knees. How far off your? Because I did a whole season and I fell off once on my own in a race. Okay, so pretty much I can race naked. Is my thought process.
It's kind of right, eh?
But how far off the pace would you be? So if you had your nuts out and everything, how much would that risk factor? Because it clearly shows how much of a thought process it is. Because the minute you felt the wind around your nads, you'd go, "Oh, it's a bit dangerous, this." But do you know what I mean? So how? And actually, you could quantify that because you could actually do it. You could go around with all your leathers on and an airbag and all your protective equipment, and you could go around naked. And the same bike. It would be so interesting to know how much slower you'd go. And that's not, the skill is exactly the same. It's the same ride. The bike's exactly the same. But that's purely a mental difference that's gone on. I've stumped you.
I don't know where to go with this.
I'm not got this picture of you.
I'm just trying to picture Stuart Higgs signing
fully
that off.
naked. I've got knee sliders. I don't want to graze my knees.
Man standing on the ladder.
And my boots. Because I don't want to hurt my
The
feet.
brolly girl, can you move that? I'm trying to top up the tad bed. No, but you're right though. You know, you're taking like having a suit of armour. You know, if we were all indestructible, who would be the fastest rider?
So so
you
even
know
that.
what I mean?
So I guess car racing versus bike racing has an extra element, shall we say? Is that correct?
Yeah, no, completely. There's two different skills, aren't there? I suppose if you think of what you race on one track compared to another track as well, like you've got some positive memories on one track and not so on the other one, then that changes the ball game as well sometimes. We're going to be here for another 5 hours.
Well, you know, it's almost paradoxical, but then you've got a tool set
but then
that can adjust that.
But then these key ingredients that's the secret recipe, isn't it? Up to a point, it's being able to. But then that is going to shift and change ever so slightly depending on the situation. Now.
Do I have to have kids? I'm serious, because that's a commitment. That, like, you know, you can't just
Just at least practice. It's only fair that you go and practice.
I'm looking at him. If he rings me later on, going, Dominic, you're gonna have to have kids, son. I've sat across and opposite, looked in your eyes. If you want it, you're gonna have to have it.
I've assessed your performance.
This is mental.
Yeah, well. Where we're going with this? You asked us the question before about when people approach you, are they like being proactive, are they reacting to problems? Mainly people react to problems. So let's throw a scenario out. So say somebody they're not performing very well. They're really nervous before the race, and now. What I would be doing in that sort of situation is I'm looking at like the 24, 48 hours before the race. What are they doing? Some people will waste a lot of time. Maybe the mind reading a hell of a lot about what people think of them in their team. They might be focusing so much on other riders. They could be on YouTube or social media, checking out other riders and all that sort of stuff. Ain't going to help them. So I'm trying to work out like the sort of key behaviours there that are going to help them. It might be that they're actually a social person normally, but for whatever reason, when they're in the race situation, they take themselves off and they're not speaking to others, and they're as miserable as sin. That ain't going to help them race well in the long run. So you're looking at the personality. Other people I've worked with as well. In fact, this one's a pretty good one. So this guy like embraces the fitness side to the max, the nutrition, the full works, well into sports science, but he's feeling the pressure before he's racing, big style. So we're having this conversation about what do you do the night before? Well, I go to bed early. I eat me pasta and all this sort of stuff. So I was like, well, what would you like to do to chill out? He says, well, I'd like to go for a pint and get a burger in the local pub. And I'm like, well, what's stopping you doing that? And he's, well, you just don't do that, like, because of sports science and all that. Anyway, he goes out and does it and wins the race the next day. So,
you're officially my favourite person on this show, because I've been doing that for years. And I haven't won one. Pass it for me when I go home.
But that, that, I suppose that to him at that time was just, it released the pressure, if you like, made him feel normal, and he went out and raced. But then, guaranteed next race he goes and has that burger and that pint, and he crashes, or he finishes 10th or something like that. It worked on that one occasion.
Just you find that things build up? Because I have most races. I don't know if you have any superstitions, but obviously we spoke about superstitions before. But I have quite a few superstitions, or the way you get ready, or whatever it is, and most of them stem from I did something just by chance, and then I had a good race or a bad race, so I will or won't do that in the next one. And then over time, the more that you race, the more these things build up, because okay, I put my boot on a certain way that one time, so then that's a thing. And then the next time you put your gloves on a certain way, that when I had a good race, so that's a thing. And over 20 years of racing motorbikes, you've got this flipping 4-hour routine.
Yeah, that's so common in sport. That is, it's ridiculous.
The superstition or the routine.
The superstition. Yeah, you hear it. Yeah, hear it all the time, and in some ways that's probably just nerves, isn't it? And if you are super chilled and relaxed, and if you are mega confident in your ability that you're just going to go out and perform on tap, you wouldn't worry about that garbage, would you? Just give us a second. I know you can edit this little bit. I'm sure I'm getting harassed by my lass here. She thinks I'm probably coming back, so I'm just going to text her and say, look, I'll be
this is going shit.
I'm just going to say
they won't stop talking.
They keep asking really obscure questions. I just don't.
Right, that's sorted.
I'll stay in. But Dom, do you find, Dom, that you...
Do you use your own techniques when you were getting told off by your wife?
Yeah, do you use it on her? Do you what is it? What do you say? Hypnotherapy. Do you hypnotise your wife?
I wasn't in the pub last night.
He has the one for you then. I'll tell you when I did use it. So she had 2 home births.
Right.
Both my kids were born at home.
Right.
And that was because of
and did you
some hypnosis. Basically, I pulled together.
Were you trying to save the diesel or something?
Well, not nice.
It's a fuel crisis, love.
So obviously it's quite painful giving birth, as you'll find out soon.
David warned us about this, love.
but no, I pulled off different audios for her, and she'll listen to them for a good month or so in the build up to it, and she went through pain, but I think basically, like for a woman giving birth, it's bloody painful, but the power of it is, you're sort of breathing in and relaxing the body, so that pain, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, there's maybe a 6 or a 7 at times, as opposed to a 10. Hence why, obviously, most women have go down the medical route.
And seriously, all pits taken apart. She did that twice. No, she did that twice. No. That is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the first one, I'm in the pool, and me in my dining room, and I'm picking out little one Kian. Second time, I think I dropped him. So, but thankfully
in the pool,
the midwife's there and cleared up the mess. But yeah,
my giddy aunt.
Yeah.
Please tell me you've got that on the wall. That is fair play. That
Did not expect to be talking about this on the
no,
podcast.
no, you wouldn't be. But
She must be in your She must be in your testimonials on your website. She's got to be. You know, like I gave birth and it was fine.
Twice. No, it's the fact that
Twice.
no, fair enough. Like I'm going to give this a shot once.
Yeah.
No,
But it must have worked first time to go again.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you wouldn't do it, would you? Aye. I mean, yeah.
So
she copped a lot of stick for that, mind you. I've got to say.
Is pain not a figmentation of the brain, because it isn't, but is pain real, or is it a thought process? Because you were able to negate some of it. Okay, you say not all of it, but you were able to numb it down a little bit. So does that mean that pain isn't fully physical?
Well, yeah, exactly. No, there is the psychological component to it. I mean, look, I've struggled for the last 10 years with back pain, slip discs, and there's periods where the pain's been excruciating, just ridiculous. I alluded to the fact I ain't a medical person before. Like I wouldn't take painkillers unless I really had to. So if I'm going to use like some of my tools, if you like, to help me, then there's a thing called, I'm gonna try not to use psychology jargon here, like, because people will not want it. So you basically, where you place your attention in your body, and in a way you're trying to, I suppose, relax different areas of your body, and then by doing that, and that's a skill in itself.
That is a huge skill.
If you practice that, like when they talk about meditation, if you did like 5 minutes meditation, doing that day in, day out, you get bloody good at it. And then like pain wise, it's gonna help you no end. But then what's happened in like my world now, people are using that as a way to, I suppose, like control our nerves, if you like, before racing. So going back to the whole pen thing,
I guess the nerves is a physical response, but you're numbing it down with a psychological intervention. Is that right?
And in effect, you're helping someone to stay in the moment. Now, this is interesting stuff. This is like so. Okay, right. I'll give you a bit of a laugh then, potentially. Yeah. So going back to my back pain, I had a car accident in November. Some twat went into the side of us, and I lost like a lot of feeling in my fingers, hand, arm, and what have you. Struggling to sleep because I ended up like with back pain up into the top of my spine. About 6 weeks where I'm sleep deprived, sleeping on the floor and all sorts. Anyway, my brother-in-law put us on to ice baths. He says, he was struggling with his mental health, so he said, I'm getting an ice bath. And I'm like, all right, fill your boots, get on with it. Like, now to do with me. But then as things happen, 3 hours after I have this phone call with him, podcast flips up the power of ice baths for like injuries. So I listen to the podcast and I'm like, there's something in this. Like,
I'm not telling me brother though.
I'm telling exactly. So flips another podcast on, and then I come across Wim Hof's work. Don't know if you've seen Wim Hof.
Yeah.
He's doing a interview on YouTube with Novak Djokovic, who's not a bad tennis player. And then by the end of the day, I've bought myself an ice bath. Now we're about 270 days on. I've been in every day for 270 days. And
is there a goal in sight here, or is it just indefinite?
Basically, my goal at the time in February was I wanted to play golf, and the golf season starts in April. So day by day, I could feel like within a fortnight, I could sleep for starters. I wasn't getting the spasms and all sorts in my back, and then bit by bit, the blood obviously was getting through, and I was getting somewhere with it. Got to the point by April, I'm not experiencing any of all of this, And I'm thinking, happy days by me, I'm going to be back on the golf course. So I'm practicing during April, just light, building myself up. And then May comes along, the weather starts warming up, the temperature of the cold water goes up, not having the same effect. And yeah, went pear-shaped basically. And yeah, I spent the summer still struggling with the nerve damage. I ended up in August time, because I was so pissed off with the whole thing. I ended up forking out and like getting a cooling system to cool it down. Sure enough, come September, I'm back on the golf course, because it did the trick.
And do you charge your brother for using your ice bath now?
He's thinking about it now. Is that
yeah, we have a good chuckle about it, don't we? Because I was the one. But like mentally though, getting back to what we're talking about, the meditation, come the mind. I mean, now, like, it sounds absolutely nuts, but every morning, I'm part of my routine. I'll have a hot shower, and then I'm straightening me speedos, joking, outside.
It's nude.
Exactly. And I'm
just his knee sliders.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm in the ice bath, but the thing with the meditational bit is, though, I am because you, like, literally the first minute and a half, you like, it's basically like a cold shock that you're experiencing, to say the least. It is brutal in your hands and in your feet. So I'm placing my attention in my body and like sort of going through the pain, well, literally, and then I'll do it for about 4 or 5 minutes every morning, and yeah, it's just become a skill. You're sort of imagining like the nerves functioning at 100%, and
so I guess in a way, because I've seen some of the stuff that Wim Hof does and all that, and I suppose in a way what you're saying is how that you got your wife through what she did. Okay, I'm sure every woman's going to hate me for saying it's similar to you getting an ice bath. It's not even close, but it's
Nicola,
I'm in so much trouble now. Sorry, all you ladies that have been through childbirth.
I'm not thinking about all the. I'm thinking your wife is going to breathe and live in monkey out here.
But when you get in an ice bath, there's a physical response, and through, I guess, a thought process, you're trying to null down that physical response in a way.
You are, and because you place your attention, and because your thoughts are like, I need to get out of here, like, this is bloody horrible, etc. So yeah, you're shifting your focus. I mean, if anybody, I've actually toyed with the idea of like bringing this as part of my work, the whole ice bath thing, because there's times where literally you're standing there and you're thinking, this is going to be absolutely brutal getting in here, and it really teaches you to be able to, I suppose, gain some control over your mind under like a high stress situation, because it's stressful every time you get in the damn thing, like, and there's ways of like making it like worse for yourself when you're in there. You can, if you just get in and you sit nice and calmly quiet, like say your hands are out of the tub, then if you want to make it harder, put your hands in. If you want to make it even harder, move, exactly, and what have you. And yeah, it's
my middle sister, I've got 2 older sisters, and she's done that wild swimming, and it's just, I can just see the confidence in her, you know what I mean? It's brilliant. She is swimming in wild, like ice. She's literally breaking ice apart to swim, and you're like our road race, and even I'm looking at that. That's nuts. Like, not a chance, son. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm doing next Wednesday. Winter swimming workshop thing, and with the intention of doing it this winter. Because I was well and truly hacked off with like this accident. The week before my accident, I'd had a needle, I don't know, that long in my back, because I was having, because of the back problems, to try and sort it. well, yeah, it did what I needed to do that, but then obviously the accident knackered other parts of my body. I couldn't do basically the stuff that I wanted to do. But I suppose again, using your wisdom, your tools, and what have you, I'm thinking, well, what? It's very easy when you're injured and to be thinking, like, what can I not do? Then you get yourself all bitter and twisted about your situation. I was thinking, well, what can I do? And yeah, the whole sort of outdoor open water swimming was and having a bit of fun with it, in all honesty, was my bag during the summer months. And now we're coming into the winter, we'll have a bit more fun with it and freeze my nuts off. So I'll be at
me and Chrissy on the other side with the microphone. How do you feel, son? Regrets, instant regrets. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Boxing Day dip, that'll be me.
Oh, God love you.
I've been looking through some of the Patreon questions, some of our amazing Patreons. There's some pretty interesting stuff, actually. Jess has asked, are there differences in how you approach team sports people compared to individual athletes?
Ooh.
Team sports. It gets complex because like you're talking a lot about like relationships.
Use football as an example.
Yeah. Ooh. Where do you start with that? Jesus. Football, right.
It's a cracking question, that, Jess, mate.
As I say, there's a lot of like that mind reading goes on because you're trying to impress your coach, you're trying to impress your teammates at times. You might be worrying about the size, the physicality of your opponents. So there's the similarities because this lovely core man in front of us, you are going back to that and you're trying to drill them into that's an external thing you can't control. Put it to one side because it could be a case of like dealing with criticism. It could be dealing with selection issues. You could be asked to play out of position. So in a way, is it easier to work with someone who's in an individual sport because there's less outside factors? Well, but then because I guess all you're trying to do is to tell them to switch off to the outside factors in a way. Is that? But you are. Well, yeah. It's difficult to switch off to them, isn't it?
Yeah. It's nearly impossible.
It's being aware of like how it's
affecting you.
Exactly. Influence your behaviour. Like the emotions you feel and what you're thinking. But the team sport, I don't know. The individual sport, in your case, it isn't because you've got that team behind you. You've got that pressure of the owner saying you've got a bloody win.
But maybe say tennis or, I don't know, darts again. But
they've all got teams around them now, though,
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true. So there isn't really an individual sport anymore. But I guess in definition there is.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, there's the similarities there. I mean, I suppose the bit in a proper team sport, a football or rugby, would be what I call interpersonal confidence. So, can you, are you good around like a group of people? Are you comfortable? Can you persuade people? Can you influence people? The communication skills side of things, and you don't necessarily need that as much in the individual sports. So just there's an extra little strand to your work. But then, like in my role, you can get involved in the whole team side of things, the culture, the dynamics, which is it's quite good fun. It can get a bit interesting and spicy at times as well. But I suppose what you're trying to do in that situation is say there's 5 people in a team for argument's sake, and the end goal is for the for the riders to win the championship. What you would do is you maybe do a profile of each individual and around their sort of personality, style, characteristics, and then you would get to so person A potentially reacts in this way, but he winds C up, and B winds D up by certain things. But again, just if everybody's aware of why they do it and that they don't do it on purpose, and there's like some open communication around it, then you can tolerate it. But how many team situations do egos come into it, and
especially in sport.
Yeah, exactly. Blame, pointing fingers, and all the rest of it. But if that is more of that like openness, then in my line of work, if anybody's interested, Google psychological safety. There's a professor out in the States, Amy Edmondson. She's got a cracking book on it, which is all to do with like team culture and the and in essence, I suppose what you're looking at is if everybody's open and there's no hidden agendas, then you would like to think the rider is then going to perform like freely because they know exactly what's expected. And yeah.
Tony asked...
Mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling.
It's never ending.
It is, man.
Tony asked, and I'm going to follow it on with another one, but Tony asked, do you find many individuals are still closed off as to how much mental health can help or hinder them? I think we've touched on that a lot. Basically, the whole thing is a mindset, I guess. But then Mick Strickland it's similar but a bit different. But he's gone into how widespread are mental health issues within UK motorcycle racing. Now, I guess that's probably a question mark for all of us. He says we see athletes having issues far too often in lots of sport. But what are the governing bodies in the UK motorcycle racing doing to help reduce this? I don't know the answer about what UK motorcycle racing are doing to help reduce this. I think that's not a thing yet.
No,
there are groups that help. There
are helplines for individuals, but I don't think as a sport we are
big up on it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No, and from a personal perspective,
can I?
Yeah, of course.
Can
Yeah,
I
you
just take you back, right? Just so I mean, I don't know exactly what the governing bodies are doing about it in motorsport, but what I would say is in some other sports that I'm privy to, I don't know if you heard of like the Clinic Sport and Chance.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so they've had like real, well, certainly top footballers in it. I think like if you go back years ago, Tony Adams, I think Gazza's been there and stuff like that. Now, clinics like that will have agreements with the different governing bodies, and whereby, if somebody's suffering with mental health issues, then I don't know, the agreement might well be that, they get 12 free sessions, or, I'm saying 3 sessions, but there's 12 sessions on for them, and
they can use that facility. There's
exactly, the clubs will have a referral partner, if you like, where the signpost. So whether the sport can do more, I don't know what.
I think sports are jumping on. I'm not sure we're really along that line yet, are we? But but I think from a personal point of view, and I want to ask your opinion on it afterwards, but I'll just sort of say my personal experience first, and whether you think it's right or not. I have a thought process that the sporting brain is one that has high importance on achieving success and what they define as being successful in life and those sort of things. And I often am envious even of people that don't have what I would call any desire, because they're quite happy within their life to...
Just content.
Yeah. I know people that are very content with what I would consider not my sort of lifestyle that I would like. And I'm so happy for them. And actually, I almost wish that I could have that, because I know that and I'm being open here, you can gauge yourself on literally the one thing that is important, and it's different now since I've had a child and everything and a wife and all that, but you gauge your own self-worth on how fast are you on a motorbike.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you're not even worth anything. And just that desire, and that the other problem with a desire to succeed is whenever you reach a goal, the very next moment there's a new goal to go and get. So it's a sort of a never ending. You always think, I'm going to achieve, when I win X, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But then I've got no doubt. Whenever I've achieved all my X's, there's always been another one after it. So that's my perspective. But would you, from your experience, is that something that you see mental health being more prevalent than in sport than in the general public?
Very good question.
It's talked about an awful lot more, isn't it? In both walks of life. Getting back to when you're saying about the self-esteem part to it, self-worth, then yeah, I see that like a hell of a lot. Mm-hmm. So if I'm trying to, I'll be basic, yeah, right. So there's a little like model in psychology where if you look at like psychological well-being, you've got three things to factor in. A, do I have a sense of autonomy, so a sense of control over like my destiny? Mm-hmm. B, am I connected to other people? C, am I competent at what I do? And ideally, if you can get a nice balance between all three of those, then you're probably going to be your well-being's going to be pretty decent. You're going to be motivated. But often what I'll see is that competence tank is like overflowing, if you mm-hmm. like, because it's all, and then maybe people's relationships suffer as a result. They become a bit insular, mm-hmm. And then their obsession sort of takes over, if you like, to achieve. So again, I suppose it gets back to what I was saying before about the whole, you can put your heart and soul into things, but sometimes actually you need to tail it off a little bit and then top up the other tank. And again, often when that's the case, you feel like I suppose your destiny, your career's out of control as well. So that the step back, the building the relationships up can help with the other one. So it's again complicated, but it gives you a little bit of an inkling into what I'd be thinking if I was working with somebody in that situation.
Yeah, no, I just find it really interesting. And just the mindset of being successful, I think, can also have, or trying to achieve, success can be, different people define success completely differently. So mm-hmm. it's hard. I don't want to disrespect anyone because hopefully everyone's successful in their own way. Mm-hmm. But my definition of success, I think, can also, and I believe that most of my peers around me have a similar definition of success.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're that driven,
X, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're chasing the rabbit.
And I think that mindset can also have, as much as it can be positive, it can be
negative.
It can be difficult to manage sometimes.
Yeah, and you've got a negative bias up here as well. So, you could have a decent race, but you haven't won the race, and all you're doing is holding on to the mistake that you made. And then you do the same the next week, and then all you're telling yourself is negative things. And
the question is enough and never enough? Is enough ever enough?
Yeah. Then
I mean, it's also a very thankless. I mean? Sport is very thankless. Even in racing, they actually leave it 2 days now, but the end of the MotoGP season, they have a day off, and then the very next day after that,
it's test.
There's a test. So the champion, even the champion, literally gets 1 day off to go, "Wee, I'm the champion," and then
that's it, back to work.
It's straight back to it. So that ecstasy, I guess, is so short-lived, isn't it?
It is. It's relentless, isn't it? I suppose that's why you need periods like now where you can actually chill out and recharge the batteries, mm-hmm. if you choose to anyway.
Is that getting worse in society now? When you think about, like the 70s champions in MotoGP, you know what I mean? It was all drinking, having fun, you know what I mean? Going out and racing, you know what I mean? Like Jim Hunt, perfect example, you know what I mean? He became a legend in his own right, and he was just carefree, Barry Sheens, that generation element, shall I dare say, not the snowflake element of it.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean?
Do you think that's where the sports science bit, though?
Because I'm not too sure on that, Dom, because basically, if you think, if you look back at the grids from the 60s or 70s, you go, all right, okay. In fact, my dad says about it, because it's quite funny, because he said the Americans came over and raced, and they were all eating pasta. So my dad decided he had to eat pasta because it was the way to fuel your body. They'd worked out that it was a better way to fuel your body. And then you see people on the drink and on the like smoking or whatever. And actually, because I see comments online, you see a picture of the good old days, and someone will comment and go, oh, that was the good old days when racers were racing. You go, well, actually, no, because then someone who was doing a better job than them, that wasn't drinking and smoking and was actually training, came along and beat them. So actually,
you're saying it wasn't as... It's probably equally as unfun then as it is now.
I don't mean not fun. I just mean that I think I think it was different in terms of we know more now from a physiological perspective, so you do things right.
Yeah.
That's what I think, anyway.
No. I've never thought of it like that. You know what I mean?
It wasn't you.
Yeah, no one knew any better.
No one knew any better. So then it was like you weren't coughing your guts up because you'd had 10 Benson and Hedges before the race, and then that person performed better, and then
that's the evolution of sport. That though,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose people do talk about these things more and more as well. So there was probably a lot of people like holding on to a lot of hidden stuff. Like I was going to say just about the sports science thing, and that to some will ramp up that just extra little bit of pressure.
Because being more accessible, we're speaking about it now. You've got your own podcast, and we're broadcasting. It's a case of, is every rider going to end up? Is every person in football? Is everyone in Newcastle? That high end. There's no doubt in my mind that they will have people like yourself involved.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, is that making the talent pool wider or starting to actually thin it out a bit more? Because if, like we referred to at the beginning of this episode, Chrissy's little secret. You know what I mean? It was like, right, I don't want to show him my cards. He didn't see it as weakness. He just went, this is my little advantage. I'm going quicker. You know what I mean? Yeah. Chrissy was not a weak man. He really wasn't. But
that happens a lot as well, because there'll be, if we change the sport to football, then you'll get football clubs who might employ psychologists, but the player will come to like someone like me who's totally outside and away from it all, because they don't want other people knowing, whether it's the trust factor. The manager selects them ultimately, and often there's fear in that. And if they're like 100% open with the manager, then
but surely, like that you said about the relationship, surely anyone in that situation can't feed back, because that's going completely against the patient. Well, I suppose the manager's the client, I guess.
Well,
I don't know, it's hard.
That's the difficulty, like when you are working in a football club setting in my job, because honestly, you're like, who am I sort of trying to please here? Because you ideally want to be working with the players, but if the players see you too pally with a coach, then like, nah, don't want to work with him. I don't trust him. What we say in a conversation is going to go back to the coach. So it's a really like delicate balance in that way.
Is there people that you've actually refused to work with? You don't have to. Well,
yeah. The quick fix guy or girl who comes to you with a problem and just expects you to get the magic wand out and they'll be all right the next day. I'm like, nah, you've got to put a bit of work in. I think in the early days, I probably would have worked with anyone and thought, I can make this work. Yeah, exactly. But now I'm like, no, if you're going to work with us, you're going to do a minimum of 6 sessions, and you've got to. There's an element of patience there. Yeah. You can't expect it's just I'm going to work a miracle for you the next day, and you've got to put in a little bit of work as well. I mean, let's be honest. If you bench pressed 50 kilos and you want to bench press 100, you kind of just rock up the next day or a week later and bench press 100. You've got a little bit, build.
That's a good analogy of it. That's a perfect way of explaining it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My head is absolutely fried after all this. I'm not going to lie to you. Like yours is got you're the sports psychologist. We still haven't looked up what the definition of psychologist. I know I got your name wrong. I don't know what's going on. I'll be driving home like that, going, "What the?" I'm taking up golf.
You're just excited for getting a portion when you get home.
I'm not. I'm keeping it in my pants. No way on that side of things. But I tell you what, we got any more questions before we do the housekeeping? We've got the show doesn't run on fresh air.
Tamu did actually ask
to me.
that he understands you'll be involved in many other sports, but has competitive. So he's called it the motocross dad syndrome, which is where the parent gets over involved. So have you had those sort of scenarios? Obviously, you can't divulge anything personal, but do you often see that families can be a hindrance, perhaps, or not a help? Or have you had those motocross dad scenarios?
Yeah, no. I mean, I have done one little exercise I like to sort of go through there is where you'd ideally be working with the kid, and the parent wouldn't be there, but in some cases the parent is there, and that's fine, because the kid's more comfortable. But I'd be going through, as I say, this whole thing about what's under your control, what's outside of your control. So probably takes about an hour to go through it, where we'll look at like before the race, during the race, after the race. But the important bit in this case is like the before the race, and the after the race is like what do you want from your dad, for argument's sake? Obviously what your dad says, how he says it, his body language, all of that sort of stuff is outside of your control. But you're hoping that dad and son or daughter are going to be open to, our dad's going to be open to changing his behaviours to help the kid. So you're then, you're trying to open a conversation about, as I say, what's going to be helpful before, so that kid's then going to be on the starting grid, and they're ready to go. They're not thinking about, well, dad's just putting me under a ridiculous amount of pressure. I can't believe he said that, and all the rest of it. And then afterwards, and I think this is a lesson for anybody really. I mean, if we think about like emotion and like what your adrenaline, your arousal level and what have you, then when you're racing, by the end of a race, you're probably up here, right? You're spiked. So the last thing you need from, whether it's a parent, a team manager, or anything, is like somebody really in your ear, right? You want a bit of peace, don't you? But there's the parent, and when the parent's there, the parent's probably up to here because they're worried you're going to crash and all the rest of it. It's a match made in, not in heaven, is it? You're going to be butting heads, aren't you, at the end? So I would always say, just give them a bit of time, just for you both to settle. It's like, it's like having an argument, isn't it? When two people are having an argument, nothing makes sense, does it?
Yeah, the two chimps going at it.
Exactly, they're just bashing heads, aren't they? It's not until the next day or a few hours later where you can actually make sense and you're listening to the other person. So yeah, I mean, the parent who sort of, maybe the race is done and then they're sort of problem solving, the playing through the race with their kid, I'd say just leave it 24 hours. Just let the dust settle. Let them play on their phone, have a bit of chill out a little bit, and then have a look at it when everybody's gone.
What sort of age range do you work with? Like, how young would you employ these sort of tactics? Sorry, but these interventions.
Yeah, it's got younger and younger. Like over the last few years,
Can an athlete be too young in your opinion?
Yeah, I reckon so. I mean, I would have said, if you'd asked me this a couple of years ago, I would have said about 10 would have been as far as I would have gone. But I've gone down to like around about 8. Mm-hmm. But you've got to be like a mature, intelligent 8-year-old. So you can hold a decent conversation with them. But it's so different. Working with a kid like anywhere between, I would say, about 8 and 13. It'd be fun to watch. Actually, you've got them jumping around like a lunatic. In that kitchen, like doing
kid stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having a bit of fun with them. I mean, if I'm working with a footballer, I'm saying a young kid footballer, even somebody in their early 20s, we might do a session on a football pitch where they're doing a whole bunch of keepy-uppies or different sort of drills while we're having a conversation and like working through something. Because I mean, keepy-uppies for argument's sake with football. If you are doing that with somebody on their wrong foot. It's a difficult skill to be able to master. You know, you might only be able to do one or two initially, but if you spend like half an hour, 45 minutes with them, they'll go through some difficulties. They might get 2 up to 5, then drop back down to 2, then they get to 7, drop down a bit. By the end, the sort of 10. Well, it's great for like opening up a conversation about how you deal with difficulties in your sport and challenges, and it's a practical way of going about it, as opposed to what some people think the work of a psychologist is sitting on a couch, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And therapy, you can, as I say, it can be practical. You could go for a hike up a hill with somebody, have a round of golf with them, and get to work. So it's quite varied.
But I mean, it is different, interesting with children in sport, because we see, I mean, in racing now they're trying to up the age limits to stop people being too young, but we see that they're still getting conditioned from a crazy young age.
Oh, like for like their career, like, you know, MotoGP career is surmised by 10. Like, if you weren't good on a mini bike by then, you haven't got a MotoGP career. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you see world champions at a very physically demanding sport at 15, that sort of age. So obviously they also have to have the mental capabilities to do that as well. So yeah, I guess it's anymore. A hard one, because it seems an odd concept to work with children, but then those children are capable of winning world championships.
But then they're not children, they're robots, aren't they? You know what you class as kids, it's mad, isn't it? It's mental.
Then you've got the pressures of school as well, and all the tests that they're given and all the rest of it. It just it's mind-boggling. But I mean, if you think that the actual brain isn't fully developed until you're about 30, so. You know, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 15-year-old kid. I mean, they can get labelled, like the emotions that they experience. You know, the anger, the frustration, and all that. When you see them going crazy, they can get really like negative labels from their parents. But it's not necessarily their fault. It's just because their brain is underdeveloped. Mm-hmm. But then that causes problems as well further down the line. You must, you must behave properly and all this sort of stuff. Aye.
You know that PTSD? It's all flooding back for me now about my childhood there. They're 100% right. No, but like you say, we could spend another 5 hours with this. This is just incredible, man.
Aye. I will do it again then.
Oh, no, we'll have to. But we're definitely not coming on your show, because we could barely handle you on like our show. Never mind the way around, we'll get torn apart. 100% over. But hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been absolutely brilliant. My brain is fully melted, 100%. But it's been absolutely class, man. Absolutely class.
No, I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
He'll never be back. He's like the sweat's pouring off. Not a chance.
Let's sleep the night now. Well.
And there's no cold baths that are going to fix this one. Not a chance. Not a chance. But I'll tell you what, we've got quite the list to go through. So we've gone through some changes. We've got a new sponsor on board, but then we're getting piggybacked, as well as other sponsors come and help and stepping it up, because without them we'd be stuffed, absolutely stuffed. But we've got OMG, they've kindly stepped up to the main plate on that side of things, but we're doing a show, Christian. I know, yeah. You've raised your eyebrows, so have I. So we're doing a show. They're doing a show. Sorry, it's the auto show. It's a car and bike meeting. So OMG. So they've been invited down to this auto show, which is mainly a car event in January, and it's either. See, this is how terrible I am with homework, and each show leading up to January will have all the details for you. But the good thing is they're trying to combine both worlds, so we're going to go down with the show, like the studio, and we're just going to have the crack from there and come meet the whole team at OMG, which will be brilliant. And Bennett's, we have a list here, my giddy aunt.
Oh, is this that one?
Have you got that one?
I'll do
you go for that one.
I'll do that one. So this is the Bennett's shout out, because obviously Bennett's are a big supporter of the pod. So they just mentioned to go directly to their website. That way, there's free access to the Bike Social membership, and that's where you get your pit box access, your safety car laps, of which I've done quite a few. So I've had quite a few Bennett's customers around, usually Alton Park, trying to scare them as much as I can. And then all the extras. I don't know what the extras are, but there's extras, so that's cool.
Well, you have to become a member to find out the extras.
They get access to all the competitions they have on over Christmas. plus a full season of BSB experiences too. So if you're going to get some Bennett's insurance, go directly to them.
Love it. And we have an individual episode sponsor, and this one is brought to you by Timothy Adams, based in, is that right, Tarporley?
It's near Alton, that is actually.
Right, there we go. Then obviously BSB fans. So
very near Alton Park.
Tarporley, Cheshire.
So thank you, Timothy Adams.
Steel frame buildings, concrete, and all types of groundworks.
Yep. So the links are up on Facebook and in the description of this pod. So yeah, please
Precious
support
on
them.
Grace.
Support them. They're supporting us. That's mega. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. But no, I think what else have we got? Oh, hold on. Quick Shifter are coming out with limited edition bags, and you'll like this.
Can I take some home? By the way, I've literally run out of coffee. Just before I came. Thank you.
Would you like to take some Quick Shift over? You're a coffee man.
I'm not a coffee man. Neither is my wife.
Oh, fuck. What have I done there?
We're back.
Are you back on, or have I knocked this?
No, I'm not.
Are we still recording?
We're back. I'm back.
Right. Sweet. We're just going to keep rolling with it. I've somehow broken this.
Tom got all excited.
Yeah, I do. I've just started breaking the equipment. But no, they're doing a Chasin Racin blend with Quick Shifter, which is going to be awesome. And they're only going to do 69 bags, limited edition element, which is going to be a really fantastic touch. And God, Bennett, when this has been released, I'll be back from Macau.
Oh yeah.
So I'm flying out to Macau. So
hold on, I've been seeing all the pictures of everyone in Macau already.
Yeah, they don't have jobs. I've got to earn a living.
You'll just get there for FP1, like just in the nick of time.
100%. I'm getting an advantage here. This episode hasn't even happened yet, and I'm getting a psychological advantage massively on that side of things. So, no, we'll be back from China, and then you're doing you would have done. See, this time travelling thing's no good for the show.
What will I have done? I won't have done anything.
You've been down to which bike show have you been?
Oh, the NEC.
The NEC, there we go.
Which we've given out tickets for.
See, time travelling.
Aren't we amazing?
We are amazing on Chase the Race, and absolutely fantastic. But no, hey, thank you to everyone.
We have to thank the NEC Motorcycle Live for providing those for us. So big thanks to them.
Perfect timing. There you go. And but yet again, thank you to all our patrons, all our sponsors for keeping the show on the road, and more importantly, David Charlton. Got it right on there.
Spot on, yeah. Like I say, a big thank you for letting us come on and waffle on for a bit.
Oh, it's been great crack. But hey, until next time, lads, take care. See you in a bit.